Hey.
So I think the time has officially come for the New Orleans Pelicans to shift their attention to truly building around Zion and keeping him happy, because so far his tenure in New Orleans has just been a little bit of a mess. They already blew one chance on messing up the Anthony Davis tenure while he was in New Orleans, and it's rare for small markets like the Pelicans to get another chance with a superstar this quickly, but they lucked out, they got Zion, and now they need to not make the same mistake twice. But I also don't necessarily blame the Pelicans for taking it this slow to this point. The first 2 seasons of Zion's career, obviously we had the pandemic in his rookie year. He had some injuries that he had to deal with at first before he could truly get on the court and get active and acclimated. It's been pretty clear to me, at least, that the Pelicans, ever since acquiring Zion, have been making moves to build for his future and just to better build for his timeline. But at some point, there comes a time where you have to go out and get aggressive and start trying to get wins when you have a talent like Zion on your team, especially in today's NBA, where I feel like a lot of players are getting used to getting what they want in terms of being able to play where they want to play. They can get out of contracts, they can get traded. There's a lot of power within the players. And I really hope that New Orleans is realizing that this offseason is probably the tipping point for that moment. And I also say that because I feel like a lot of fans might be forgetting how good Zion truly is, just based off the fact that the playoffs become such an important time of every NBA season when they roll around, and we're yet to see Zion in the playoffs, and it hasn't necessarily been his fault. The teams that New Orleans has put around him so far in his first 2 seasons have been very counterintuitive into the way that Zion plays and just his entire play style, and I just really hope that people aren't putting the blame on the sophomore player that just recently put up 27, 7, and 4 on 65% true shooting at such a young age. Anyway, the reason that prompted me to make this video was the fact that we recently got a report that the Pelicans are looking to make a trade involving either Eric Bledsoe or Steven Adams, and all I have to say to that is thank goodness. There's a part of me that's actually kind of happy that the Pelicans' most recent season was pretty disastrous. I know they had a whole lot of injuries and not a lot went right, but I think that's actually good for them because in a way it lit a fire underneath them. I think it's forcing them to, at least right now, they seem to be pretty aggressive this offseason in terms of making moves, and I think that's a good thing. Because at the time that the trade went down, where the Pelicans acquired Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams, I understood why they did it. They were add-ons to a larger haul of picks that they got in return for Drew Holiday, and again, that just fits the whole idea of the Pelicans trying to build better and just be better for the future around a Zion timeline. And I hope people understood that both Bledsoe and Adams would just act as a bridge of sorts to find a better long-term solution at the guard and center spot. I mean, as of now, there's still plenty of routes that the Pelicans could go, but I like both Kira Lewis and Jackson Hayes as potential long-term solutions at the guard and center spot respectively. And while I'm not quite sold on Jackson Hayes as being the solution, I did really like what I saw from Kira Lewis in his rookie year. I think give him a couple more years to develop and just mature and get acclimated, and he could be a really good complement to both Zion and Brandon Ingram if they're still on the team. Plus, I know I've said this before on the channel and other videos, but I just still have no idea why the Pelicans decided to extend Steven Adams to more years and more money than he's probably worth. And I really like Steven Adams' game. I think he's a good, solid player. He rebounds, he can make his little post hooks. He's an underrated playmaker. But again, 18 mil is just so much to pay for Steven Adams. Plus, it just makes it harder to trade him at this point, which is what they're trying to do. So again, just a whole lot more counterintuitive stuff from New Orleans. And when it comes to this most recent season, I also feel like I have to point out how bad of a decision it was to bring on Stan Van Gundy as the head coach. I'll forever wonder why he made the choice to take this really fun and young roster who excels in transition and out on the fast break, but then take them and make them play at a really, really slow pace and just clog the paint and just not spread the floor at all. To introduce some fun stats, New Orleans as a team was bottom 6 in the entire league in three-pointers made, three-pointers attempted, and three-point percentage. Plus, in case you forgot, they also have one of the greatest and most efficient paint finishers that the league has ever seen in Zion Williamson, not to mention that he himself is also a very underrated playmaker. averaged more than 4 assists per game as a sophomore, where he's known to be just a scorer primarily. So why they didn't take the opportunity to space the floor and get some shooters out there on the court with him so that he could facilitate and drive and just kick it out to them, I have no idea. Anyway, now that we are done with that season and into the offseason, I wanted to look ahead to, what exactly could the Pelicans do to further progress their team and get to a state where they're making some moves to help keep Zion activated and interested in the organization. And well, they already did one good thing by getting rid of Stan Van Gundy and hiring Willie Green. Well, I personally don't know much about Willie Green as a coach. I do know that he's coming from the Phoenix coaching staff, who have all done a great job getting to the NBA Finals this year. Not to mention, there's a whole lot of people around the league, coaches, players, other front office people, who seem to be pretty confident in backing Willie Green as a head coach. So for that reason, I'm excited to see what he can get done with a very talented roster that New Orleans currently has. It's still a little work to do, but other than that, I hope they can get at least one of Eric Bledsoe or Steven Adams traded this offseason. If they are only able to get one out of New Orleans, I would prefer Steven Adams over Eric Bledsoe, just for the simple fact that Eric Bledsoe at least fits the team a little bit, just because he can play defense, he can initiate an offense. He's not the greatest three-point shooter, but again, he's not terrible. He has his games. Steven Adams, on the other hand, might possibly be the worst thing that happened to Zion over the first 2 years of his career, simply because having Adams just sit on the block or sit in the dunker spot and not be able to shoot the ball has been so detrimental to the Pelicans offense. He just clogs the paint, and not only for Zion, but for Brandon Ingram and other players too. So even though he's a pretty good anchor on the defensive side of the ball, I just would much rather see a center that's able to unlock Zion's full potential on the offensive side of the ball. Plus, keeping Bledsoe would give you some insurance, just because Lonzo Ball seems as good as gone at this point. I know a lot of people were hoping that he could potentially be the long-term solution at the guard spot for this Pelicans team. He's really unhappy in New Orleans. He's been very vocal about that. It's been rumored and talked about many times. So again, I think he's as good as gone. If I'm the Pelicans, I'm not even going to worry about him. I'm just looking for replacement options at this point at the point guard position. Plus, I know there's already been some rumors that are linking the Pelicans to Kyle Lowry and saying that they're in the race for him, which is very interesting to me. I don't know how likely it is that this is going to happen. If you were to ask me right now, I would very much doubt that it happens, but if they end up getting into the running and end up acquiring Kyle Lowry, then power to them. That's a great addition. Also, Josh Hart is another player that I love on this team. I think he's one of those guys that is very good at doing the dirty work that's outside of scoring the ball and all that good stuff. So he's someone that I would very much like to see them push for hard in restricted free agency and make sure that he stays on the team. Outside of that, New Orleans has two budding stars in Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, and I don't quite want to say that I'm not sold on Brandon Ingram as a player yet in the league. He's a very, very talented scorer, averaged 24 a game at the age of 23. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up moving him in the future for other pieces or just other co-stars for Zion as well. But for now, with both of them on the team and locked onto contracts for quite some years now, I think the Pelicans' main focus should be getting good veteran players who can play good defense and just be able to shoot the ball. Because at the end of the day, with the more space you can get out there for Zion, that just leaves the paint open for him to go and dominate. Because if there's one thing that we know for sure from Zion from his first few seasons, is that he is truly one of the best offensive players in the paint, scoring, playmaking, pretty much rebounding, everything. He excels at everything when it comes to dominating the paint offensively, and you want to play to those strengths. There's obviously a whole lot of offseason left. I mean, we still are yet to see the draft, we're yet to have free agency, but I'm going to say it now that I will not at all be surprised if we get to next season and the New Orleans Pelicans end up exceeding expectations. Obviously, assuming that they stay healthy for the most part, I wouldn't at all be surprised if they can get to those middle to back end playoff seeds. I think they should make the playing game pretty handedly, because at the end of the day, Zion is that kind of a special player where I think it'll be very hard to not win at least 40 games with him from here on out in his career. I think a whole lot of people might have taken it for granted that he was, again, a 27 point per game scorer on 65% true shooting percentage as a sophomore. Overall, I think he has a whole lot of greatness to come. I'm excited to see him finally get to the playoffs, hopefully, and I'm just excited to see him grow as a player because I still think there's a whole lot to be unlocked with Zion Williamson. And again, it's going to be on the Pelicans to do that unlocking and supply him with the help and talent needed to win games.